What's up guys, Kennedy here. I decided to make a video series addressing the question what's the best bike for me? Since I'm getting so many questions on this and my other cycling channels, the answer is the best bike for you is the one that fits you. No matter whether it's on Shimano Triagra or Campagnolo Super Record, if the bike fits you, you will feel well, you will perform better, you will prevent injuries. Finally, you will just love cycling and stick to it. If the bike doesn't fit you, no matter the group set, the carbon frame or whatever, you will not like it. You may feel that cycling is not for you, or that our body is made more for running than cycling because you're getting some knee pains, back pains and so on. That's why we're gonna be talking about bike sizing and bike fitting. Alright, bike sizing and bike fitting. There's so many discussions going on. What's the difference between bike sizing and bike fitting? Quite a few people will tell you that bike sizing is just the basics of bike fitting. It's more like just measuring your body and putting the data in some kind of calculator and finding the right size of the bike for you. But what I'd like to show you in this video series is that bike sizing is about size of the bike. So size of the bike is something you don't change. That means that bike sizing means finding a right size of the bike for you. And bike fitting is all about fitting already right-sized bike to your body. Now there is also two schools of bike fitting. One school says that you come with your bike to them and they will fit the bike you already have to your body. The other school uses a special bike fitting machine. So you come to them without any bike and you are being measured, and the bike, the machine they have is being fitted to your body. And after this kind of bike fitting, you'll be given the right size of the bicycles, perhaps even certain models of bicycles, and also how you should set up your saddle position, your handlebar position, your crank arm left, and so on and so on. None of these two schools are better, but the first one will let you buy the bike first, and the other one would like you to come first and they will offer you what kind of bike you should buy. And the truth is that if you haven't bought a right-sized bike, bike fitting will be very difficult or impossible. But if you have some knowledge about how to find a right size of the bike for you, that would be the first step. You can buy the bike and you can even try to fit the bike to you just by acquiring the knowledge you can gain. So in the first episode of our video series, I'm gonna show you different kind of bikes. We'll have a racing road bike, we'll have a cyclocross bike, we'll have mountain bike and a commuter. And I'm gonna show you that the size of the bike depends also on the kind of the bike or the way you're gonna use it. So let's get to it. We're gonna use my body as an example, and I'm gonna show you a bike that fits me very well and those that don't fit so much. Let's just start with my Cannondale Cat 10 size 56 centimeters, and I am 6 feet tall, and I am exactly 6 feet tall, which is around 182.6 centimeters. Now we are talking about bike sizing. I didn't go to bike fitting. Even though I am physiotherapist myself, I'm gonna go for bike fit just maybe next year or after 2 years, when I'm gonna prepare for very important races. So far I can do it for myself. But anyway, this is 56 centimeters bike and it fits me well. I can be racing, I can be training, I can do whatever intervals or uphills or downhills, and I feel well on this bike. So what's the right size of the frame for you? If you feel like you can go forever on the bike, that means this is the right size of the bike for you. Let's begin with a small anatomy of the bike. This is the frame, this is the fork, and what we're gonna measure is the top tube, the head tube, and the seat tube. Of course, we've got the down tube here and the chain stays and seat stays, but what most important for us will be the seat tube, the top tube, and the head tube. What means 56 centimeters? This is a road bike, so this would usually means 56 centimeters of the top tube length, and it has 56 centimeters. How do we measure it? We measure it from the center of the seat tube right here to the center of the head tube. So we don't measure it from the very beginning to the very end. That would have almost 60 centimeters, but from the center to the center. That's just the basic rule, but most common. So 56 centimeters here. On the seat tube, we've got 57 point something, 0.3, let's say 0.5 centimeters, so 57.5, and the head tube that will give me my position on the bike has 155 millimeters. We're not going to change the position between the camera and the turbo trainer, so you're gonna see my position on each bike very accurately. But what we're gonna start with is to take the bike off the trainer and do some very basic bike sizing. That would be the method that we used like maybe 15 years ago, and it would always work. It doesn't work anymore now because of different shapes and sizes of the bike. Stand over the bike and check the distance between your tender parts and the top tube. Once more, I'm 6 feet tall, 182.6 centimeters, and I have somewhere between 3 and 4 fingers. And this size of the bike is just awesome for me. I'm clipped in, I'm on the bike, you can see my position right now. The default position would be with the hands on the hoods, and now you can see how I'm pedaling. I feel great in such position. I can really go like forever. No numbness in my hands. One thing I'm gonna work a little bit more is the fore and aft position of my saddle, but we're gonna do it in the bike fitting part. So this is the position on the hood. That would be my uphill positioning, and this one is aerodynamic. This is a road bike with the race geometry. You can also buy road bike with sportive geometry, which will have slightly higher head tube, but I'm gonna show you that in a minute. Alright, since we've got into the race bikes, let's take measurements of our Merida scootera, and we will compare my position on that one. There you go, there is our Merida scootera racing bike. On the frame we can only read medium large, so it's medium large frame. It doesn't say 56 centimeters, but if we take the measurements, we had the 56 on the top tube. In our Cannondale we've got 54 here, so it's 2 centimeters shorter bike. And then we had 57 centimeters of the seat tube length. Here we have 54.5, but please be always aware of the geometry of the bike. And interestingly, we had 155 millimeters of the head tube length in the Cannondale. Here we have 170, so it's 15 millimeter higher. Let's just start with our standover test, and we've got almost, I would say 4 fingers here. So it is not too much, it's just okay. The most important thing for you here is not to have the top tube too high, like sitting on it. So 2, 3, 4 fingers, it's just okay, because we've got some sloping frames, we've got different shapes of the tubes, so it doesn't matter anymore so much. But as long as you don't sit on the top tube, it's just fine. I've put the seat on the same height as on the Cannondale, and now you can see how I'm pedaling here. So this position is much more upright. Let's just start with the default on the hoods. I do feel that this frame is shorter. This is my uphill position and aerodynamic position. Of course, as you can see, the handlebar is also in a different position comparing to the Cannondale, but you can see how my legs are doing. Is this bike too little for me? Well, I can't say for sure that it's too little. It's kind of short here. In this case, it's also good to clip into your pedals and see whether you are touching the front wheel with your feet, with your shoe, and that's the case here. It can happen in the road bikes, but in the too short frames, it will be too easy for you to hit the front wheel with your leg while you're turning. So this is one of the things you would like to check. And now we've got our cyclocross bike in size 54. So 54 versus 56 on our Cannondale, and as you can see, the standover test is just fine. I have much less space here than in Merida scootera, which was medium large. I cannot fit 3 fingers, so I would say it's less than on our Cannondale, that is 56. That's interesting. Yeah, because I said more than 3 fingers in Cat 10, and here I'm just squeezing in 3 fingers. Same shoes, my riding MTB shoes, and just 3 fingers. All right. Now let's take the measurements. It says clearly 54 centimeters this frame, so we are expecting 54 centimeters of the top tube length, center to center. It's exactly 54 centimeters. Then the seat tube length is here 54.5 versus 57.5 on our Cannondale, and the head tube length is here 160 something, like 160, yeah, 160 I would say. So it's just 5 millimeters more than on Cannondale Cat 10, and it's less than on Merida scootera. Okay, we are clipped in, and this is how I'm pedaling here. This position is much more upright. Of course, the stand positioning is different in these bikes. Let's just begin with the default position on the hoods. I'm riding like this. And then my uphill positioning and the arrow one. And let's see how does it look like with the front wheel. Turning the wheel, and I'm touching it with ease. So this frame is too short for me. And if you'd like to ask me whether we couldn't just fit the other frame size to me, for example, or to you, by using different stems and just, you know, adjusting the height of the seat, yes, we could, but still the bike will handle differently for us. And as you can see, I shouldn't be touching the front wheel with my shoe that easily. I knew this bike was gonna be a little bit too short for me. I just bought it for my cyclocross championships now in January. Then I will resell it. It was on very good price. It's true that for racing, some riders would use a smaller frame size and just fit it to them, but I'm not pretty much sure what would be the comment of the professional bike fitters on such a thing. Alright, so we've had 3 road-like bikes. 2 of them, Merida and Cannondale, were racing bikes, and this one is a cyclocross bike. Let's now see how the mountain bike and the commuter bike look like. And I'm happy to have my beloved Killer V here, because I'm just gonna show you that the rules of thumb don't always work for bike sizing. Now we can see a huge difference between a road bike and a mountain bike. Same rider, both bikes fit me very well. I feel just great on this mountain Killer V. I feel super awesome on this Cannondale Cat 10. Of course, this Killer is now on the turbo trainer, so it's like 5 centimeters higher than this one. Maybe Cannondale should be like this, more or less. But you can see the difference between the head tube, between the top tube, and all the sizing. Both bikes fit me very well. And now let's do the math. We have the same seat height. We've got 49.5 centimeters of the seat tube here. We had 57 on our road bike, so completely different geometry. Now what will be the length of the top tube here? We don't have a top tube. We have 2 tubes here, but we can measure it just virtually from the center of the seat tube to the center of the head tube. Let's just measure it. And that's 56 centimeters. That's interesting. So we have same size virtually here between this large Killer V and Cannondale 56 centimeters. It's also large. So this is pretty much the same, but then the head tube length will be also different. We have just 135 here versus 155 in the Cannondale Cat 10 and even 175 or 170 on our Merida. I don't have to take this bike off the turbo trainer to show you that the distance on our standover position will be completely different. It's already on the trainer and I still have at least 4 fingers. So if the bike was just on the floor, that would be, I don't know, 6 or 7 fingers. And it looks too small, but it's not too small. The frame is not too short, the seat height is okay, the position on the handlebar is just great. And now I'm gonna show you how I'm pedaling on this one. So this is my position on the mountain bike. We don't have different position for my hands. Usually I would also use a bar ends, but here we've got just a flat bar, and this is how I'm pedaling here. So of course the mountain bike will have a more clearance, will have completely different geometry. But of course in bike sizing the most important thing is to not to sit on the top tube here and then just feel well on the bike. If you're around 6 feet, a large size will be okay, even for the newest carbon FSI bike. But some riders maybe would like to use medium. I would not, but some riders do use a shorter bicycle. Again, what the pro bike fitters would tell about it is also a different story. And finally we've got our commuter Cannondale control bike. Wonderful bike. I would say this one would make also a great traveler because of the very robust and solid frame set. And let's just start with the standard test, standover test. As you can see, the frame has some shaping. I've got here at least 4 fingers. That's fine. I feel very comfortable also to sit on my bike, even like that. Okay, let's take the measurements of a large-sized commuter bike. The seat tube length is 51.5, so it's somewhere in the middle, the mountain bike and the race bikes, our road bikes. The top tube length, let's just measure it virtually once again. We've got here 57 centimeters, so this one will be the longest bike with the longest wheelbase. I had to move the wheel support to the front, and then if we look at the head tube, we've got 160, just 5 millimeters more than our Cannondale Cat 10 bike. What about the seat height in this bicycle? I have my measurements, so I know what height of the seat would be best for my road and mountain bike. Would I use just the same here? No. And as you can see, I am no longer in my SPD shoes. I'm just in some, you know, casual shoes I would just use for everyday ride. What would be the seat height for this bike for me? Would it be just the same? I have my measurements. I know what's the seat height for me for the road bike and mountain bike. Well, here that would be a little bit less. For 2 reasons. I have different shoes with different soles. And also I want to have just a little bit more comfort when I'm getting on the bike and getting off the bike. In the city we are often stopping on the traffic lights, so we don't want to be just reaching the ground with our toes, but just feel comfortable. This one is now higher, of course, on the turbo trainer, but I like to have some comfortable position here. I do feel that the wheelbase of this bike is longer. This bike handles differently. This is not the geometry for single track or something like that, but this is the bike that will be very solid, and if we put some bags on it with 20 or 30 kilos, it will still go just as we want to. This is how I'm pedaling here. So this is my position here, completely different from other bikes. It's much more upright. It's much easier and much comfortable for me to look just straight ahead. So when we are getting on this kind of bike, we have different purpose, we have different style of riding. That's why also our feeding to the bike will be different. And size, even though it's also large size, as you could see, the diameters, the dimensions of the frame set are different. It's a great thing to have the abundance of different models and types of the bikes. If we had here something like a newest all-mountain bike, you would see how the geometry of the bike changes due to different adjustments in the rear suspension. So it's great to have a choice of different bikes, but it makes it a little bit more difficult for us to choose a right size for our body. What should we do then? Of course, the easiest way is to go to the local bike shop and try different size of the same model of the bike. But the problem is that quite often we would like to buy a bike online. That's why still I would go to the local bike store, even though they don't have the model I'm going to purchase. I would see at the chart of the sizes of the dimensions of the bike I'm gonna buy online, and then compare it to the different models that you have in the local bike store and just try them. That's the best way to do it. The standover test is still something we should just start with to see whether the bike is not too high. Then try to think also about the length of the bike. How do you feel on the length of the frame? Remember that the stem, you can just flip it over, you can change it, you can replace it, but the size of the frame set is not changeable. Especially in the road bikes, just check whether you are not hitting the front wheel too easily. I know I need 56 centimeters size for road bike. By Cannondale, if I was to choose Specialized, I would have to compare, for example, the top tube length. But people who are somewhere in the middle, like in the middle 52, 54, you have the choice then. You can choose between a lighter and a little bit heavier bike. You can also choose between the way that the bike will handle. By showing you different types of bikes, I hope that I explained that there is no strict rule for us. If I had a downhill bike here, the position on the bike would be completely different, and choosing a right size for us will be also a different thing. What I would really like for you to learn from this video is that you should know what's the purpose for you of using the bike. If you're using it in the city, you would like to have the saddle a little bit lower. If you are using it as a race bike, the saddle will be higher, so perhaps the geometry, for sure the geometry of the bike will be different. Maybe if I had the same geometry of a cyclocross bike and a road bike, I would like to have my saddle a little bit lower on the cyclocross bike. I know there are some bike fitters who see people coming to them with the 52 sized bike and they would offer them to change into 60 centimeters. That's maybe too extreme for me. But believe me, when you sit on the different bikes, you would be able to find at least two sizes for you, like 52 or 54, 54 or 56, 58 or 60. And then with some knowledge I'll be giving you in the next episode of this video series, you'll be able to buy a right size and then to fit it to you and then to feel great on the bike. Thanks for watching this video. I know it was quite long, but the episodes in this video series won't be very short because I'm trying to do it quite in-depth for you, so that you will choose the right bike for you, you will fit it to your body, and you will feel great by cycling and training. See you soon. Bye bye.